Hello my friends. In today's video, we are going to be talking about a huge topic, how to draw the female face. I've made this video once before in the past, and I've privated that video because I don't think it was that helpful. I've watched it over, I've noted anything that was important from that video, and I'm carrying it through into this one. But during my years on YouTube, I've really figured out how to deliver information in a better way. I really hope to keep improving in this, and hopefully in the future, in a couple of years, I'll make another video on how to draw the female face that will be even more useful to you. But today, I want to talk about several topics. Definitions: what makes the female face look female, placement, how to make your drawing or painting feel more alive, and lastly, I want to talk about same face syndrome. I've asked you guys on Instagram what your concerns are when drawing the female face. I have noted down all your questions, and I'm going to talk about my process, my tips, and my understanding of how to draw the female face. If you'd like to see more educational content like this, or you enjoy my painting style, consider subscribing to this channel. I love creating content that explains my process and that shares part of my art journey with you. My disclaimer for this video is we're going to be talking about conventional beauty. This is a typical understanding of someone who is classically female. Not all women look like this, and this is not a standard of beauty. I think it's important to learn about classically feminine and masculine features, and this is a great place to start when you're learning about facial features and learning how to mix and match these to create your subject. Not all cis women are going to look like this. Not all trans women are going to look like this. I would love to reiterate that this is conventional and classical understanding and what my understanding of hyper feminine features is like. Let's talk about what makes a female face look female. I have a couple of things here: large eyes, softer and weaker chins and jaws, soft cheeks, softer brows, both in shape and in bone structure, as well as higher brow bones. Something that has helped inform my understanding of the female face is watching makeup videos. This is my very first tip to you. Seeing where women apply contour, highlight, blush, eyeshadow, all of this has helped me understand anatomy so much more. That is something I highly recommend to you if you're learning how to draw the female face. You can watch TikToks or longer length YouTube videos, but being able to see these facial features close up, what women like to accentuate with makeup, is a great place to start in learning the anatomy of the face. I can give you the typical advice of learning how to draw hyper-realistically, drawing skulls, drawing still lives. These are all foundations for learning how to draw the human face and the female face, and so I obviously recommend these to you. But if you've come to this video, you're coming for my stylized perception of the female face, not for hyper-realistic and very natural looking paintings and drawings. However, I do recommend that you look up resources that show you how to draw the human skull or the female face from life. These are important foundations for you to understand anatomy and start to familiarize yourself with a female face. Before I share my next point, I would love to talk to you about the sponsor of this video, which is Clip Studio Paint. You already know I love Clip Studio Paint. I have been using it for the past several months and I have been loving it. Clip Studio Paint for me is a joy to open and to use, and has allowed me to continue working on my digital painting completely unencumbered by features not specifically designed for digital painting. It also has amazing brush mechanics, and I love how it streamlined my digital painting process to be so much quicker and more efficient. The Clip Studio Paint app allows you to draw on different devices and across devices, both on Android and Apple products. So you can take the exact same file that you're working on your computer and paint on your tablet when you're away from your computer. It's amazing. There is a free trial available, which I will link down in the description. I'm so happy to be working with Clip Studio Paint again on this video. I really hope that you try it out as well. It's been a game changer for me, and I think that if you have been struggling with digital painting, it's a great program to give a try, and it might be a game changer for you too. The next point I want to talk about is placement. Now that you know what to accentuate and hide when you're drawing female faces, let's talk about where to place these features. I use this main structure when placing facial features. I usually place the eyes right where the sides of the nostrils end, or about one eye's length in between. There will be exceptions if I'm painting a super narrow nose or a wider, broader nose. However, around one eye's length in between each eye is the guideline that I usually go for, and the sides of the nose usually line up up with the corners of the eyes anyway. Place the features lower on the face rather than in the middle. This will give you a smaller jaw and chin. The cranium is much larger than you might imagine it to be. Something that I struggled with when I was drawing women to begin with is giving the actual mass of the skull, making it much smaller than it actually is. While conventionally, everyone's trying to make their forehead smaller with makeup or with hair plugs or surgery or whatever. Foreheads are pretty large, much larger than you might imagine. So when you're observing your reference photos or even yourself in a mirror, look at how large your forehead is, and you might be a little bit surprised when you isolate it and think of it by itself. When drawing masculine women, accentuate some sharpness in the face, such as giving them a larger or sharper jaw, smaller eyes, a stronger forehead, more sunken cheeks, and a stronger or harsher nose bridge. The main word in all of this is contrast. While typical feminine features are soft, masculine features are harsher. It's also important to talk about color variations in the face. Bonier areas on the face will be cooler, while fleshier areas will be warmer. So the forehead and the jaw, which are bonier, can have more yellows, greens, and blue tones in them, while the fleshier areas, like the cheeks, the nose, and the lips, will have more pinks, oranges, and reds. I love to accentuate this in my paintings, and I would say that this is something stylistic for my pieces. Bright noses, bright cheeks. I think it's so cute. I love painting really like red noses and red cheeks. If you're in doubt of where to place these colors or even fearful of adding color, paint in the base colors and tones the way that you usually would, and then use a light opacity and a light hand with a bright blue or a bright purple or green and gently lay those over your base colors. With a light opacity, you should be able to add a tint of those colors to your piece in a way that will really elevate the colors of your piece without being so overwhelming. This is how I learned to add blues and greens into my paintings, because it is daunting to add such harsh and cold colors to skin that we usually know as being warm, pink, orange. Another way of implementing different tones and colors in your piece is by using overlay or soft light layers to include these tones. Adding pastel highlights will also create an iridescent look to the skin and is something that I employ in my pieces. I love to add color to my work and to have almost a shift in an iridescent look to skin and to my pieces. For me, it's important to add a lot of colors and variations to the skin to make it pop. Something else to consider is the mood of your character. If you're trying to paint someone in particular, think about their demeanor, personality, character, and use their facial features to accentuate those characteristics. If they're innocent and young, give them rounder, more open features and expressions. Use round, fluid lines when coming up with your design. If your character is edgier or darker or more mature, use sharper lines, graphic shapes, bolder colors. Use a lot more contrast in your character. Blush can create a more youthful and innocent look to your character, so blush placement can affect how mature your subject looks. I love to add blush on the apples of the cheeks of my paintings. It looks youthful and healthy, while less blush or even blush on the cheekbones can look more mature, more grown up. Let's talk about how to make your drawing feel more alive. This is something that I love adding in my pieces, and I think is a characteristic of my work. When it comes down to me creating a drawing that feels alive and vibrant, it comes down to texture. Add glows to the eyes, use brighter highlights and glossy texture on the face instead of lower contrast dull colors. This will make your character feel vibrant and glowing. Low contrast without sharp highlights will create a velvety matte look to your character, while bright highlights, sharp and glossy highlights will look juicier, wet, plump. Good words, right? They'll just look a lot more vibrant and alive. So glossy highlights on the cheeks, nose, lips, brow bone, anywhere you see in a makeup video somebody applying highlight or gloss. Those are great places to add sharp highlights to make your character pop. Something else that I think is so important when painting is to add things like baby hairs. Baby hairs add realism and interest to your piece. These are details that you don't necessarily need to have in your piece, but when you add them, they create this wow factor, create a standout moment in your piece. Because these details are not necessary, not everyone's going to add them to their paintings. Therefore, being able to pick out realistic, detailed parts of your subject matter to accentuate will give your character more life. Something else to note is to thin the hairline around the face instead of giving it a blocky shape. This is one of my favorite details to look back on when I'm looking at my previous paintings. Lastly, let's talk about same face syndrome. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is something that I consider is super rude that people will say to artists. This is what people used to say to me, and I think it's terrible critique. I've been there, apparently people have told me that I used to have same face syndrome. I don't see it, but people said it to me. Constructive critique can look like, would you consider drawing a character with a different ethnicity to tell the same story? Would you try painting with a different color palette or different textures to the face? Could you draw a character with thinner lips or downturned eyes or a broader nose, etc.? These are great ways to encourage someone to draw something different in their style. There were several ways that I pushed myself to draw different characters. One of those was by working on the 100 Heads Challenge. I'll link it down in the description. I love that video. It was a lot of work, but I'm very proud of my growth and what I learned in the video, so I'll link it down below and recommend for you if you are struggling with same face syndrome. Another way that I pushed myself was by hyper-focusing on learning to draw specific features, such as monolid eyes or broad noses or specific hair types. This means dedicating a lot of time back to back to learning to draw these features. It's not going to come naturally to you unless you have these features yourself. I mean, there's a reason that so many people say my drawings look like me. It's because I spend the most time looking at myself in the mirror and am so comfortable with my own face that I subconsciously incorporate these facial features into my subject matter. The way to be pushing yourself and to learn how to draw these features is by hyper-focusing on learning to draw these. Try to pin or find photos of characters with specifically monolid eyes and trying to paint them over and over until you have an understanding of the way that the skin moves and 3D shapes work with each other. My last tip, which is kind of crazy, my last tip for learning how to draw specific facial features is when studying these features, go out of your way to exaggerate these features. This sounds wrong, like it could be stereotypical, but it's something I had to learn the hard way. For me, it's pushed me out of my comfort zone and created obvious change and growth. I used to try to subtly paint these features in my subject matter, and it wasn't enough. I wasn't straying far enough from what I know and paint usually to actually see a change. This is how I learned. I am so proud of the growth that I have made so far in learning to paint different ethnicities, and I really hope to continue growing in this skill. It's something that you have to work hard at and you have to focus on. It's not easy, but it's definitely rewarding because I feel like my art has drastically improved since I've started putting this work in. Let me know if any of these tips were helpful to you. I hope that being able to hear my thought process when I am painting the female face has helped you alongside seeing me implement these actual specific tips in today's painting. This painting took me a total of 6.5 hours to paint. I am so happy with my progress as I have been spending more and more time planning out my paintings and executing them with many details. I think one of the standout parts of this painting for me is I love the braids and the way that they cascade across her shoulders and there's a weight to them. Hopefully in the future I can implement this detailed of a subject matter with a little bit more of a complex and intricate background, but for now I'm so happy with this painting and I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this video and enjoyed hearing my tips, consider subscribing for more content and giving this video a like so I know that you enjoy this type of content and I can make more of it. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.